The greatest weapon in the hands of the oppressor is the mind of the oppressed. They don't slap you in the face. They don't chain you to a wall. No, my friends, emotional manipulation is far more subtle, far more dangerous. It slides in wearing a smile. It whispers sweet words while digging deep into your thoughts. And the scariest part? Most people never even see it coming. Today, we're not just exposing manipulation, we're dragging it into the light. This isn't just about knowing the game, it's about never letting them play you again. Before we dive in, if you're tired of being played, if you want to take back your mind, hit that like button and subscribe, because the more people who see this, the fewer victims these manipulators will have. And drop your comment below with this affirmation: I break the spell. Let them hear your power. Hey folks, imagine this. You're walking through what looks like a beautiful garden. Roses blooming, birds chirping, everything looks perfect. But every step you take, you're getting tangled in invisible vines. They don't pull hard at first, just enough to slow you down. That's emotional manipulation. It starts with flowers and ends with chains. One moment you're flattered, the next you're confused, doubting your worth, changing who you are just to keep someone happy who's never truly satisfied. They study your kindness and turn it into a leash. They mirror your dreams to earn your trust, then use them to trap you. They make you question your sanity while keeping a calm face. That's not love, that's control in disguise, but not anymore. Today we're exposing the 7 stages they use to wrap your mind around their fingers. Stay with me, because once you see the game, you never fall for it again. You are not their puppet. You are not their experiment. You're the master of your emotions, the guardian of your peace. Write it in the comments right now. I break the spell. Stage 1. The idealization trap. Manipulators don't walk in wearing masks. They hand you the mask, and you put it on for them. It always starts sweet, doesn't it? My friends, this is the stage that fools even the strongest minds. They come in fast, too fast. You feel seen, understood, admired. They flood you with attention like a wave crashing against dry land. It feels like everything you've ever wanted. Compliments, late-night talks, promises of forever. It's almost too good to be true, and that's because it is. Imagine you're starving, walking in a desert. No food, no water, just sunburn and silence. Then suddenly, an oasis, crystal clear water, shade, a voice telling you, you're safe now. You drop to your knees, thankful. But what if that oasis wasn't real? What if it was a trap? This is idealization. They give you everything, so they can later take it all away and watch you beg for it back. And here's the trick. They're not showing you love. They're showing you who you want them to be. They're mirroring your soul like a chameleon. They learn your fears, your desires, your wounds. Then they build a character that seems tailor-made for you. But they're not bonding. They're studying. They're mapping your emotional blueprint so they can control it later. You think you've met the one? No, my friend. You've met a mirror. This is why it's so hard to detect. Because we want it to be real. We crave the story. We want to believe someone finally sees us, that someone finally understands. So we silence the red flags. We say, maybe I'm just scared of love, or no one else has ever made me feel this way. But what you're feeling isn't love. It's intensity. And intensity isn't intimacy. That's the first lie we have to break. They don't rush because they love you. They rush because they need your guard down. They need access, fast. Because once you're hooked, once you start seeing them as the best thing that ever happened to you, they can begin phase 2, control. And yes, walking away from this can feel like betraying yourself, because they built a fantasy just for you. But don't confuse a performance for a partnership. Don't mistake illusion for truth. Real love doesn't sprint. It doesn't overwhelm. It doesn't smother you in promises before even knowing who you are. Real love builds slowly in truth and time. Manipulation builds fast in fantasy and fog. Now you might be asking, but what if they really do care? What if I'm just overthinking? What if I lose someone who actually loved me? That's the fear they count on, the fear of missing out, the fear of walking away from something special. But here's what's real. Love doesn't demand that you lose yourself. It doesn't make you feel anxious, dependent, or confused. It doesn't need you to change just to stay. You are not a project. You are not a puzzle piece to be shaped and fitted. You are whole. And if someone only sees your value through the lens of performance, intensity, and fantasy, then they were never looking at you. They were looking for a character to play in their emotional movie. I want you to write this in the comments. I see the trap. Say it loud. Say it proud. Say it for every time you fell for charm instead of character. For every time you let your need for love blind you from the red flags waving right in front of you. Write it for your past and claim it for your future. Show them. Show yourself. Show the world that you're no longer fooled by sweetness wrapped in strategy. Because what's coming next, my friend, is even darker. Once the fantasy fades, the mask starts to slip, and they begin shaping you into someone easier to control. Stay with me. You need to see how deep this rabbit hole goes. The game has only just begun. Stage 2, the mirror game. The most dangerous people don't attack your strength, they pretend to be your reflection. This one's a mind twister, my friends. Right after they hook you in the idealization stage, they shift into something more sinister, more calculated. They become you. Not literally, of course, but emotionally, psychologically. It's like looking into a mirror. Every interest you have, they have it too. Every wound you share, they've lived it. Every belief you express, they believe it too. You say, I've never felt this connected to anyone, and they say, I was thinking the same thing, and boom, you're in. Now ask yourself this, how is it possible someone can match your soul so perfectly, so instantly? That's the trap. They're not connecting, they're mimicking. And here's the hard part. When someone reflects your soul back to you, it feels real. It feels divine. But what you're really seeing is your own emotional DNA being played back like a movie script. They take your voice and speak it. They take your dreams and echo them. But not to bond, to blend, to get close enough to access your trust without earning it. Imagine this. Someone sneaks into your house not by breaking a window, but by dressing like you, moving like you, memorizing your routines. So when your neighbors see them, they wave, thinking it's you. That's what emotional manipulators do in this stage. They wear your emotional clothes. They don't need to force the door open. You invite them in. And then comes the confusion. You'll think, how can they hurt me? They understood me so well. How could it be fake when we shared so many deep moments? That's the lie they want you to hold on to. That deep connection you felt wasn't two souls meeting. It was one soul being copied by someone who knew exactly how to exploit it. And the worst part? When the manipulation begins later, your mind will still cling to the early days, to that magical mirror phase. You'll keep searching for the person they pretended to be. You'll justify their bad behavior by remembering the deep connection you had. But that connection wasn't real. It was manufactured, crafted, played. And every time you excuse their mistreatment by recalling those good times, you're feeding the illusion and starving your reality. This stage is hard to break from because it doesn't feel like manipulation. It feels like destiny. But destiny doesn't require you to shrink, sacrifice, or second-guess yourself. It doesn't guilt-trip you or confuse your mind. It doesn't pretend to be you just to gain control. Stoic wisdom teaches us this. The first step to wisdom is knowing what belongs to you and what belongs to others. If someone reflects you too perfectly, too soon, stop and ask, is this person genuinely aligned with me, or are they just collecting data to become who I want them to be? This tactic is a form of emotional camouflage. It's how they survive, how they blend in, how they take without resistance. Because if they can make you believe we're the same, then you're less likely to question, less likely to protect, less likely to notice when the shift begins. And when the mask slips, because it always does, you'll feel like you're losing someone you deeply loved. But here's the truth. You're not losing a soulmate. You're waking up from a spell, a beautifully crafted illusion, a psychological costume party where you were the only one who showed up with a real face. I want you to break this illusion right now. Say it in the comments, I see through the mirror. Say it for every time someone used your own heart as a script, for every time you gave someone credit for understanding you when all they really did was copy and perform. You're not the fool. They are, because they thought becoming you was the same as knowing you. Let this be the moment you reclaim your identity. You are not here to be mirrored. You are here to be respected, seen, and honored, not imitated. And if someone has to pretend to love what you love just to stay close, they never loved you in the first place. They loved control, and now you've taken that away. Stay with me, because what comes next will shake the ground under your feet. The next stage is where guilt becomes the chain, and you'll never see it coming. Stage 3. The guilt implant. If they can't control you through fear, they'll control you through guilt, and call it love. All right, my friends, this is where things start to twist deeper. This is the stage where they stop flattering you and start folding you, slowly, quietly, with guilt. They don't raise their voice. They don't force you with commands. No, they just tilt their head, lower their tone, and make you feel bad for being yourself, for having needs, for setting boundaries, for simply existing in a way they can't control. And here's the trap. Guilt is silent. It doesn't scream. It whispers. It doesn't slam the door. It leaves it cracked open just enough for you to think you're the one who walked out. They'll say things like, I guess you're just too busy for me when you set a boundary, or I didn't mean to ruin your day. I just thought you'd care. They pretend to be the victim, but really they're planting seeds that grow vines. And those vines start wrapping around your decisions, your voice, your identity. Picture it like this. You're carrying a backpack, and every time you make a choice that honors your peace, they drop a little stone of guilt into that bag. At first, it's nothing. You barely notice. But over time, that weight starts to bend your spine. You begin saying yes when you mean no. You start checking in constantly just to make sure they're not upset. You start apologizing for things you didn't do wrong, and little by little, you disappear. The guilt implant works because it hijacks your empathy. It turns your compassion into a leash. You feel bad for making them upset, even when you did nothing wrong. You question if your needs are too much. And worst of all, you start believing that love means self-sacrifice, that if you don't bend, you'll break the relationship. But here's the truth, and it's going to sting. Real love doesn't ask you to shrink. It doesn't thrive off your discomfort. It doesn't make you trade peace for approval. They will say things that flip the script so fast your head spins. After everything I've done for you, or I guess I don't matter anymore. And suddenly, you're not just defending your actions, you're defending your right to feel, your right to breathe, and that's when you know you're no longer in a relationship. You're in a negotiation for your own worth. And it's not easy to break, because deep down you're afraid that if you stop giving in, you'll lose them, that if you stop apologizing, they'll leave, that if you stand tall, you'll stand alone. But my friend, here's what Stoic philosophy teaches us. No man is free who is not master of himself. And guilt is the weapon they use to keep you enslaved, while making you feel like you're the one who's wrong. Let's break the lie right here, right now. You are not selfish for protecting your energy. You are not heartless for saying no. You are not wrong for choosing peace over people-pleasing. And if someone makes you feel guilty every time you choose yourself, then they never loved you. They loved your submission. I've been there, apologizing for saying, I need space, feeling bad for resting, justifying decisions that required no justification. Until one day I realized, every time I explained myself to make someone else comfortable, I was abandoning myself, and I was done doing that. So here's what I want you to do. Type it in the comments. I release the guilt. Say it like you mean it. For every time you've carried someone else's insecurity on your back, for every moment you've apologized for simply existing as you are, for every night you lost sleep trying to make things right with someone who was never willing to meet you halfway. You are not responsible for managing someone else's emotional chaos. Your job is not to shrink yourself so others feel taller. And your worth is not measured by how much you sacrifice for someone who never truly sees you. Stay with me, because in the next stage, the confusion gets thicker. They'll stop just making you feel guilty and start making you doubt your entire reality. And if you're not grounded, that's the moment they take full control. Let's keep going. Stage 4, the confusion cycle. If they can't own your mind, they'll fog it until you can't tell what's real anymore. This is the stage where everything starts to feel upside down. Nothing is clear, nothing makes sense. 1 minute, you're their world. The next, you're a burden. One day they're praising you. The next, they're distant, cold, impossible to reach. And you're left staring at your phone, replaying conversations, wondering, did I say something wrong? Did I do something to upset them? That's how the confusion cycle begins. And it's not by accident, it's by design. My friends, manipulation doesn't always shout. Sometimes it gaslights. It makes you question your own memory, your own feelings, your own truth. They'll say things like, that never happened, or you're being dramatic, or you always take things the wrong way. And you start to wonder, maybe I am too sensitive. Maybe I am the problem. But let me break this lie for you right now. You're not too sensitive. They're just too manipulative. Imagine your mind as a room with clean glass windows. You see things clearly. You trust your instincts. You know what's up. Now picture someone slowly fogging up those windows day by day, breath by breath. At first, you just wipe it off. But after a while, no matter how many times you clean it, the fog keeps returning. That's what confusion feels like. And that fog isn't just mental, it's emotional. It makes you doubt your worth, your clarity, your direction. You stop trusting yourself. And that's exactly what they want. They create chaos, then blame you for reacting. They switch up their tone, their energy, their affection, so you never know where you stand. And guess what happens? You start working harder. Not to love them, but to get the version of them you once knew to come back. You chase clarity, closure, peace. But those things never come because they were never real to begin with. They were tools, bait, parts of a cycle built to keep you emotionally off balance so they could stay in control. Now here's the kicker. They'll call you unstable. They'll say you're moody. They'll say you always start drama. But the only drama happening is the one they wrote, and you, unknowingly, were cast as the confused character who never knows what's going on. That confusion, that mental spin cycle, that's not you being weak, that's you being played. Stoic wisdom reminds us, if someone can disturb your peace, they own you. And when your mind is filled with fog, your peace is gone. That's when they win. Because the more uncertain you become about yourself, the easier it is for them to control your decisions, your emotions, your reactions. But let me tell you something raw. Clarity isn't a gift. They won't hand it to you. It's a sword. You sharpen it by cutting through the noise, by saying, "No more." You reclaim your mental ground by refusing to play their game, by stopping the replays, by looking at their inconsistency and saying, "That's not love, that's control." Because real love doesn't confuse you. It doesn't keep you guessing. It doesn't turn your soul into a maze. It anchors you. It brings clarity, not chaos. If you constantly feel like you're solving a puzzle just to be in a relationship or friendship, that's not a connection. It's a trap. I remember those nights, lying awake, wondering if I was going crazy, rereading messages, questioning tone, overthinking everything. And the day I stopped trying to decode someone who didn't want to be understood, that's the day the fog lifted. And I saw the truth. Confusion wasn't a side effect, it was the strategy. So here's what I want you to do. Type this in the comments right now. I choose clarity, not confusion, not chaos, not emotional puzzles. Clarity. For every time you were made to feel crazy, for every moment you doubted your truth, for every time you twisted yourself trying to fix it. This is you reclaiming your mind. You are not dramatic. You are not unstable. You are not the problem. You are someone who just wanted honesty and got handed manipulation. But you're waking up now. And the fog, it doesn't stand a chance against your truth. Stay with me, because what's next is even darker. In the next stage, they don't just confuse you. They cut you off from the people who can save you, from your friends, your support, your reality. They don't just fog your mind, they isolate your world. And we're going to expose exactly how they do it. Keep going. Stage 5, the isolation web. The first step in breaking you isn't control. It's cutting you off from anyone who might remind you who you are. Here's where the game turns darker, my friends. Now that you're wrapped in confusion, now that your self-trust has cracks in it, they move into phase 5, isolation. But they don't do it with chains or locked doors. No, that would be too obvious. They do it with subtle sabotage, with guilt, with carefully planted doubts. One by one, they start pulling you away from the people who protect your clarity. They say things like, "I don't think your friends really like me," or "You seem different when you're around them." At first it sounds harmless. You think they're just being vulnerable, open. But it's not about honesty. It's about influence. It's about control disguised as concern. And then suddenly, you're cancelling plans. You're avoiding certain people. You're hesitating before picking up the phone. And you don't even realize that the circle around you is getting smaller and smaller until one day, it's just you and them. That's how the web is spun. Imagine a spider weaving a web around a fly, not all at once, but thread by thread. First the wings, then the legs, and by the time the fly realizes it's stuck, it's too late. That's emotional isolation. It starts with, "It's just us," and ends with, "You have no one else." And the lie you start to believe is, "They just love me so much. They want me all to themselves." That's the fantasy they want you to hold on to. But let me break that lie for you now. Wanting you all to themselves is not romance. It's a strategy, because the more alone you are, the more power they have. If there's no one left to remind you of your strength, your value, your truth, then who's going to stop them? And here's what makes this so brutal. They'll make you feel like it was your choice, that you chose to drift, that you outgrew those people. But the truth is, you were emotionally nudged, quietly distanced. You were made to question your closest allies until trust eroded and isolation settled in. Stoicism teaches us this. The wise man is never less alone than when he is by himself. But there's a difference between chosen solitude and engineered isolation. One is empowering, the other is enslaving. And manipulators know that the moment you're cut off from your tribe, your reality becomes whatever they say it is. You won't have the outside feedback that says, hey, that behavior isn't normal. You won't have a friend's voice reminding you, you don't deserve this. They've replaced those voices with their own. And this isolation, it doesn't just remove people. It removes options. It limits your emotional lifelines. It keeps you in the web by making you feel like leaving would mean losing everything. Not just them, but everyone. That's when you stop asking for help. That's when you stay quiet. That's when they win. I've seen people cut off from their best friends, from their family, from their entire identity, all in the name of love. And I've been there too, shrinking my circle, explaining their behavior, telling myself they just don't understand our connection. But once I stepped out of that fog, I saw it clearly. No real love would ever require me to isolate myself from the people who care about me. That's not love. That's a prison wrapped in passion. So here's your moment to tear down the web. Say this in the comments. I protect my circle. Say it for every friendship you walked away from because someone convinced you to. Say it for every gut instinct you ignored because you were scared to rock the boat. Say it because you're done shrinking your life to fit inside someone else's power trip. Let them call you disloyal. Let them say, you've changed. That's fine, because you have. You've changed into someone who sees through the games, someone who remembers who they are, someone who knows that real love expands you. It doesn't isolate you. Stay with me, because we're about to expose one of the nastiest plays in the manipulation handbook. In the next stage, they flip everything. They become the victim, and you become the villain. Let's break that game wide open. Keep going. Stage 6, the reversal play. When they can no longer hide the damage they've done, they make you wear the scars like you caused them. Now we enter the part of the manipulation game that messes with your soul. This one cuts deep. It's not just about confusion or guilt. It's psychological warfare. You've been idealized, mirrored, guilted, isolated. And now comes the reversal. They twist the story, flip the script, and turn everything upside down. And suddenly, you're the problem. They start saying things like, you've changed, or I can't do anything right with you anymore. They start acting hurt, like you've betrayed them, like you became cold, distant, difficult. But what's really happening is this. You started waking up. You started pushing back, asking questions, reclaiming boundaries, and manipulators. They don't like that. They don't want change unless they're the one controlling it. So what do? They flip it, all of it. Every time you tried to explain your pain, they use it as ammo. Every moment of vulnerability, thrown back in your face. They paint themselves as the victim and make you the villain. They don't say, I hurt you. They say, why are you so angry all the time? They don't say, I crossed a boundary. They say, you're always so sensitive. I can't say anything anymore. This is how the reversal works. They shatter the mirror they built and hand you the pieces. Then they say, look what you've done. It's like standing in a room full of smoke and being told you started the fire. You choke, you stumble, you panic, trying to prove you didn't. You try to show your heart, your truth, your pain. But they're already halfway down the road, telling everyone else you were toxic, that you were unstable, that they tried everything and you just couldn't be reasoned with. Let me be clear. This is not an accident. This is not miscommunication. This is strategy. This is emotional judo. The reversal stage is all about stealing the narrative, because if they can convince you and everyone around you that you're the one at fault, then they don't have to take responsibility. They don't have to change. They just have to keep performing. And this is where it hurts the most, because deep down you're still hoping for resolution. You're still holding on to the idea that they'll finally see your heart, that they'll say, you're right, I did hurt you. But my friend, manipulators don't seek truth. They seek control. And control is easier to maintain when you're too busy defending yourself to see what's really happening. Stoic wisdom teaches us, don't explain your philosophy, embody it. In this case, don't argue with someone committed to misunderstanding you. Don't waste your voice proving your purity to someone who profits from your guilt. Because they already know the truth. They're just banking on the fact that you don't. Let me tell you a truth they never want you to realize. You don't owe anyone a breakdown of your pain. You don't owe a speech. You don't owe clarity to those who destroyed it. If someone flips the story every time you try to speak your truth, they're not confused. They're protecting their throne. I remember the day I stopped trying to explain myself. I realized every time I offered evidence of my innocence, they'd twist it. Every time I opened up, they'd weaponize it. So I stopped playing the defense. I stopped auditioning for their approval, and I started rebuilding my silence, not out of fear, but out of strength. So here's what I want you to say in the comments, loud and clear. I dropped the script. Say it for every time you've tried to explain, defend, justify. Say it for every lie they told with your name in their mouth. Say it because you're done carrying a story that was never yours to begin with. Because once you drop the script, you stop acting in their play. And that's when their power fades. Stay with me, because the final stage is the cruelest of all. When you finally start pulling away, when you try to reclaim your peace, they vanish, just long enough to make you miss the chaos, just long enough to lure you back. The hook is coming, and we're going to dismantle it together. Let's go. Stage 7. The withdrawal hook. They don't walk away to forget you, they walk away to make sure you can't forget them. This is the final trap, my friends, the withdrawal hook. After all the confusion, the guilt, the flipping of the script, they disappear. Not completely. Just enough to make you feel the void. Just enough to make you question everything again. 1 minute they're flooding you with attention. The next, silence, distance, ghost mode. And you start asking yourself, was it really that bad? Did I overreact? Maybe I pushed them away. That's exactly what they want. The sudden absence is not them giving up. It's not growth, it's bait. Because now your mind is addicted to the cycle. You crave resolution. You crave closure. You crave the version of them they showed you at the beginning. And they know that, so they vanish, only to return later with a smile, a message, a memory. Hey, just thinking of you. And just like that, the hook is in. It's like stepping off a roller coaster and finally finding your balance, only for them to drag you back on. They don't return with accountability. They return with crumbs, a joke, a photo, a vague apology that says nothing but makes you feel everything. And suddenly, you're back at square one, doubting yourself, opening the door you finally closed. But here's the truth you must hold on to. The withdrawal is not a sign they care. It's a trap to keep the cycle alive. It's not silence for peace, it's silence for power. Because when you start healing, when you start remembering who you are, when you stop needing them, that's when they panic. That's when they come back. Not for love, for control. You are not bait. You are not a backup plan. You are not a character in someone else's twisted game. You are the author of your own peace. Say this in the comments right now. I choose freedom. And if this message hit home, hit that like button and subscribe, because this channel is here to break the cycle for good. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. Someone who's been hooked for far too long. And always remember, your silence, your clarity, your distance is where their power ends and yours begins.